Hello everybody, this is Raghuram, Superintendent, Additional Director General Office, Audit, Bangalore Zonal Unit. Now this video is specifically prepared for the reasons of desk review purposes. Now, when this desk review is being done, why the desk review is being done, all these questions are always asked. Now, what actually is being done in desk review in the practical or in the day-to-day audits? Majority of the files which we normally have viewed during the quality assurance review basically does information or give information with regard to the revenue trends of a particular company, specific data with regard to the address, the functions, the registrations what they have made with regard to service tax, if it is going to be all the registrations, all the categories of services which are being provided. With regard to central excise, all the items which are being manufactured as declared in the ER1. These are the general items which are normally found in the desk review. Now beyond this, most of the questions with regard to the desk review are not being fully answered. There is a standard phrase which normally people use that these items will be looked into during the course of the audit as the SSE has not provided such documents. Now, these documents which are normally supposed to be provided before the audit or before the audit is taken up, the items are collected during the audit, and at that point in time a verification is done because the time which is spent on desk review is too minimal, and then the approval is taken for the plan which is mostly a standardized audit plan. Now, the desk review being the most important part of the audit, which reduces the time spent by the audit group in the unit. More emphasis is given on doing a perfect, efficient desk review. Now, what it actually does? Basically, collection of data, that is number one. Number two is identifying the areas which require probable interrogation or investigation with regard to the audit. When I say desk review, the methodology is very simple. First, the desk review starts from the SSE master file. The SSE master file is read thoroughly. The updated SSE profile is looked into because the trends of the revenue with regard to the production, with regard to clearance is always available in the SSE profile, which is being documented in desk review. So that is the most important thing which we will have to bring out from the SSE master file. Then the data which is available with regard to the printed reports like the annual report, the auditor's report, the cost audit report, the income tax audit report, the VAT audit report, all these reports are looked into for possible discrepancies with regard to declaration to our department. Now all these things are looked into, and then the data is perused and the work starts. The starting of documentation of desk review starts with a trend analysis. Now what this trend analysis is going to do? It is the revenue trend, the production trend, the clearance trend, the revenue trend related to SENVAT and the cash payments of the SSE. This normally is looked into, and any increase or decrease is going to be reported. Beyond this, there are other analysis which we normally do, call it as revenue risk analysis, which can be of two parts. One is a rupee risk and the other one is a SENVAT risk. Then beyond that, we also do some financial ratios. So these ratios also contribute to the items of the audit plan. Now, this desk review normally culminate in an audit plan. This is what the idea is. That is, any observation which are being done with the help of all these analysis get culminated in the audit plan. It also talks about the internal control evaluation and the walkthroughs, and the techniques of the internal control evaluation is also looked into. Let us look into the normal questions which people do ask while doing a desk review. Now, what is a revenue trend analysis? What does it fetch? Normally, the revenue trend analysis is a trend which is basically with regard to the cash and the SENVAT portion of the total duty paid by the SSE. The portion of the cash, the portion of the SENVAT, what is the percentage between these two duties, these two part of the duties. And beyond this, they also look at a trend which is in the increasing or in the decreasing size. The trend basically with regard to SENVAT, whether it is on the higher side, it is in the increasing side. This is very, very important. Now, this gives normally an idea whether the consumption of the raw material or the input services, whichever the case may be, is on the increasing side or not. Now, let us look into the other questions, like what does a revenue risk analysis does? What is a rupee risk? What is a SENVAT risk? These normally are risks which are associated with the total sales and the SENVATable items which are normally being used by the company during the specific period. Now, what is their actual base vis-a-vis what is the declared as per the returns? Normally, what we do is, in a rupee risk, we take the total sales, the turnover, plus all the incomes which are normally shown as other income are taken up and totaled it. In this particular total of the income, the estimated cost with related to the raw materials or the input services are deducted. Now, what is the thing which we are going to find here? The duty payable with regard to the data which is available in the business records. So, we are going to calculate the duty payable with regard to the business records and find out whether there is any difference between what is being declared in the returns and what we have arrived at. If at all, if there is a difference, then there is always a risk. The same way in the SENVAT. Now, SENVAT also, the risk is very clear. With regard to the expenses which are normally entered in the profit and loss account and the expenses which are available with them in the other accounts also will be looked into, and the actual expenditure which caters to the SENVAT available material, that is specifically excluding interest, dividend and things like that, we have to arrive at the actual SENVAT expenditure. Now, based on this, the SENVAT is again calculated and found whether there is any difference, that is, the verification will be done whether there is any difference between the arrived at figure and the SENVAT which is filed in the return. Now, this is normally done with the help of the returns which are filed as well as the documents which are like the balance sheet, the profit and loss account, etc. This being the most important area where before going to the audit, the auditor knows that the areas which are to be verified with a magnifying glass. The most important areas would be the expenditure areas or the sales invoices. This will culminate and find a place in the audit plan. Now, the trends which are to be analyzed, as I told you, will also form part of your audit plan when there is a variation in the SENVAT PLA ratio. It is going to be available to us in a platter. Now, beyond this, the assessee will give us the balance sheet, the tax audit report, and the other audit reports which are normally filed with the other agencies. Now, from the balance sheets, there are so many financial ratios which are supposed to be worked out. Now, these financial ratios also give us a trend, like they may work in tandem, like two different ratios in a combination can give you an audit observation area, or the trend of that particular ratio in the past 3 years can also give you a audit observation area. Now, let us see into the specifics of this particular ratio analysis, which we normally do. It can be done from the trial balance data, it can be done from the balance sheet data, it can be done from the data which is given in the income tax section 44AB audit reports also, the cost audit report also, from all these things. Now what happens is, already we do have a reconciliation as per the annexures which are given in the audit manual. Specifically with regard to all these reports, the data are compared. Now comparison is one particular thing, and then reconciling it is the most important thing with regard to the audits are concerned. Many a times these reconciliations are handed over to the taxpayer themselves, who can always manipulate and give us the results. So we doing the comparison will fetch you better results. Now, the specific ratios which we normally look into. One simple example. There are many such ratios. I'll give you simple examples like other income to sales. Sales of trading goods vis-a-vis sales of manufacturing goods. Fuel consumption versus the quantity manufactured. Specific areas, expenses to the, like the amount of SENVAT credit to the purchases which are being made. The raw material purchases quantity is compared with the SENVAT availed percentage. Now, SENVAT on capital goods versus the added plant and machinery during a particular period. Now, these are the ratios normally will give us a very good insight into the working of the company for that particular given period. Now, if I definitely have a doubt, see, like take an example, SENVAT of the capital goods in comparison with the plant and machinery added during a particular year. If the duty is exactly 50% of that particular, it should be 0.5 to 1. That is how it should be. Now, if at all, if it is like that, then I know that exactly 50% is the credit which is being taken. So this is one example which I am talking about. If at all, if it is more than that, then definitely that becomes an observation area. Always, there are standard observation areas which we normally see in the audit plans, which are shown as a list. Avoiding such standardization with regard to audit plan is always good for the auditors. Doing these analysis and bringing out the results which can culminate or which are to be culminated in the audit plan will always help the audit to be more efficient and less time consuming with regard to the completion of audit is concerned. Now, beyond this, there are certain things which we would like to specifically mention. That is the auditor's report. What are the items which are already available in these auditor's report, like tax audit report? Now, this tax audit report is a specific area where you have method of accounting which is available there. You have method of valuation of certain goods which are available there. Now, this particular report, if properly read across, we will have a lot of information which we normally don't collect or is not divulged by the SSC during your audit. Normally, with regard to the auditor's report, which comes part of the annual report, has a lot of information which can interest us. The informations like physical stock verification report might be there. They may comment on the newer projects of the company. They may also talk about the procedures which are laid down by the company and followed by the company, the errors normally being done, the major investments are done, any statutory dues, disposal of fixed assets. They may talk about all these issues in an auditor's report, which may come in handy for our audit purposes. Now, the most important areas which I would like to cover in these things are the internal control procedures and the internal audit procedures, which also are documented while bringing out their auditor's report. Now, beyond this, we have the income tax audit report, which is as per the section 44 AB of the Income Tax Act 1961. Now, this also talks about the method of accounting, method of valuation of the closing stock, particulars of the depreciation which has been taken, the SENVAT credit utilized, all those things are maintained. Apart from this, the most important thing is they also give us information with regard to the quantitative details of the data with regard to their production and clearance. Now, it also mentions that a remark on whether a cost audit has been done, a central excise audit has been done or not is also reported in the income tax audit report. After this, we have the cost audit report. Now, this cost audit report also basically talks of the return of stock and also the physical verification differences. The quantitative details are also mentioned, the data with regard to duty paid, the duty, what is actually with regard to cash payments, with regard to SENVAT payments, all are documented in the cost audit report, which can be verified along with our regular returns which are filed by the SSC. Now, beyond this, we have the VAT report also, which also gives information with regard to gross sales, gross purchases, purchase returns, sales returns, all this information are given. Now, having all these reports beforehand, before taking up the audit, before drafting the audit plan, becomes the most important and valuable information with regard to the audit is concerned. So collect all the information, analyze it, go through everything, document what you have seen, bring out the ratios and arrive at your observation areas very clearly in the working papers.